welcome in everybody. Tony Cotillo, Jason Sullivan, John Coker, Dan Green, Fantasy Firebox, episode 22, in the middle of a nor'eastern first snowstorm of the year for at least us here on the east, or in the northeast. Jason, I don't know how much snow you've got in Detroit right now, but we're in the middle of a 1 foot monsoon out there. I don't know about you.
Just an inch here. Just an inch.
Yeah, I take an inch any day of the week, even though that's not what she would say. But, listen.
I was going to say, that's what Dan's wife said.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad choice of words. I've been having that problem lately, but it's all
It was cold.
Yeah, I was in the pool. George Costanza, one of the most classic episodes of all time. Tonight, we are going to talk. We're going to try to fit as much as we can in this hour and a half. We say it all the time. Comments are tremendous, but a lot of topics tonight. DFS lineups and locks. We're going to look at what each of our DFS lines did last week and see who's going to go one-on-one against each other this week, what our best DFS lineup is. Derrick Henry dominates in December once again. Ty Johnson risked that backfired. A lot of people started him. I know me for one of them, so talk about that. The rise of Brandon Aiyuk, a 49ers running back carousel, the end of Mark Ingram, a Diontae Johnson slide. We're going to talk to Mr. Coker about that one. We're going to talk about the tonight fantasy basketball preview. Studs, duds, sleepers. Is Luka Doncic the number one overall pick? Fantasy Firebox Roulette, as always, and the Heat Ratio Sports Fantasy Basketball League, brought to you by DraftKings. We're going to roll that out tonight as well, get as many people as we can signed up. We will play every Friday at DraftKings scoring format, just like football, so it'll be fun. We'll mention that later, but let's get right into our matchups, okay? Because a lot of things change, and again, we do this on Wednesday, and a lot of things change by Saturday, Sunday, right? I had Dan texting me, Jason texting me, this guy's out, that guy's out. We did change some things around, right? So many different things. So just for everybody understands, the way we're doing this is I played Mr. Green last week, and Jason played John, and we each played our best lineup. And doesn't necessarily mean that's the only lineup we played, but we played our best lineup. And, I did not keep track of all the points except for my own. So hopefully you guys kept track of your points, which I'm probably sure you did. But I lost. We'll go to me and Dan first. I lost. Dan, I don't think I lost by that much. I think I had like 103.84, if I'm not mistaken. I look at my lineup at Justin Herbert, who didn't do great. Aaron Jones, who kind of disappointed me a little bit. Melvin Gordon didn't do much. I thought he would have done more. Devontae Adams, stud, right? Keenan Allen, stud. Traquan Smith did nothing. 7 points, 8 points. That wasn't good enough for me. Dalton Schultz did nothing. And the Jets defense is actually pretty good. And Evan Ingram really didn't do anything either. So I really didn't have that great of a turnout. Dan, how did you do, buddy?
We were like neck and neck. Our best lineup turned out to be our crappiest lineup probably of the week. and it's funny on the show that Jason and I do, I was poo-pooing his Tua stuff, and I said, I'll give you if you do a Tua lineup, I'll do a Bridgewater lineup. And that was like my highest lineup of the week, my Bridgewater lineup.
Wow.
So you just don't know. You just don't know. So my lineup had to make adjustments, but to be fair, I emailed you and stuff.
Yeah.
I had to pull Ty Johnson out once I saw that Frank Gore was playing. I don't know if you saw that in time.
I did.
You have so many shows going on.
But my thing was, I didn't think it was going to matter. I was really shocked that they played Gore as much as they did.
Yeah, so I mean, I basically had a Brady, James Robinson, Aaron Jones, Evans, Keenan Allen, I think Robbie Anderson, Logan Thomas, I think Tim Patrick, and the Jets, and I think it was like 107-ish.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 107 and 103 or something. It was nobody won no money off of us, Dan. I can tell you that.
No, but if they played my Teddy Bridgewater lineup, but sorry guys.
There you go. Hey, listen, they're not. Hey, I came in fourth in my experts league, so I'm good with that. I mean, no offense to Dan, but that's where I needed to play well.
Yeah, well, Jason, I'm going to bow to him. He kicked some butt this week.
Let's go, Jay. What'd you get, buddy? How'd you make out?
163.80. It's kind of frustrating. It's weird to say this, but 163 was kind of frustrating. I had some real duds in my lineup, but I started with high end. I had Aaron Rodgers, Derrick Henry, which obviously paid off. Devontae Adams, which was obviously a stud, and Brandon Aiyuk, which was a stud too. The problem was the rest of my lineup was crap after that. So 163 won me a few bucks in a couple contests, but I felt like it could. I had hope after the 1 o'clock games that it was going to be even more. So.
Yeah, man. I listen. I was the same way as you. I mean, in my DFS, the analyst league, I had David Montgomery. He breaks off that 80-yard touchdown, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be a good day. And then my team kind of just like sat flat. I mean, I finished 4th, but it was like nobody really flew out in front of anybody. You know, Ty Johnson, I still started. I thought he was at least going to get half of the touches, and against a bad Seattle team, I thought he would at least do something, and he got absolutely nothing. I mean, he was at 0.6 until like the end of the game. But I will say this, I have to listen. I'm not the only guy who's going to say this, but I have to apologize for anybody who checked in on this show or on Sunday, and I completely told you 100% not to start Miles Sanders when you asked me. I was not. Listen, again, my confidence was at the bottom for that entire team in that running game. And listen, again, you know, if you went with that, great. And I hope you didn't listen to me for once. you went the other way. But if you did, I apologize.
I'll defend you, Tone. I'll defend you, though, Tone. What did I tell you last night? He had one run for 82 yards. That was a blown assignment by
my boy Quan.
Quan Alexander. He totally missed the gap, and the Red Sea's parted. Take away that run. And now it's easy to say take away that run, but he was 13 for 33 otherwise. So if Quan makes the tackle, he's probably 14 for 40 yards.
And I look good.
And then you look good.
Right.
So I mean, guys like that could take it to the house, but you know, it wasn't like he carried the ball 20 times at 5 yards a pop and he had 2 touchdowns. It was just one big run.
That is true.
That
is true.
That's been the story with Sanders the whole year, though. I mean, his only other real big game was against Baltimore, and that was the game that I think he had
3 or 4 70-yard runs.
Yeah, he had exactly. In the first half, I think he had 2 70-yard runs. So that's a little misleading, like Dan said.
Yeah, a lot. That happens a lot. It does. It really does. John, how'd you make out, buddy?
Yeah, I have no idea, man. I got so many lineups in. I don't even remember.
I kept track for you, John. I kept track for you.
Oh,
I love it.
So how did I do, Dan?
Well, I had to take Julio out for you because Julio didn't play, and I put who did I put in? I put Amari Cooper in for you. So you had 135.
Oh, there you go.
You were the second best.
So he would have beat.
I believe he had. I think he had Ryan Gallman, Montgomery, Evans, Cooper, Logan Thomas, Giants defense, and Henry was his flex.
Yes.
How did I remember that?
I remember Henry in the flex.
How did I remember that?
And I knew it was Henry, Montgomery, Gallman that I had the 3 running backs, but
I have it written down. Tim Patrick, Logan Thomas, the Giants defense, right?
You know how it works when you have the best point total, you always go up against the guy that had the best point total.
Yeah,
so
man.
That's what happened to you.
Isn't that the truth? That's the 100% truth. Trevor says he won 141.72 to 83.88, number 2 seed for the playoffs. Congrats, Trevor. I like it. He says, how do we like Mike Gesicki? 23 points for him back-to-back weeks of 20 points or more. Wow. I sure feel like Tua is
now
really
he's injured, right?
on Mike Gesicki, man. I don't know. Listen, I mean, he's a big guy, right? He's a big guy. He's a tall receiver. He's a nice target. He's
terrific.
Yeah, I mean, and the way Tua has been locked in on that team. I mean, listen, Devontae Parker didn't do much. That's the thing. I mean, Gesicki could very well be, the number 1 receiver coming out. Now, I know I didn't look at this because it's early, but I know I did watch some of that game, and he went off injured. So I don't know his status. Did he come back to the game or not? I'm really not sure. No, he never.
No, he's questionable.
He was holding that arm a little weird too when he left.
I think he's going to be out this week.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so that would definitely be a problem. Trevor says he drafted him later round, so he's been on my roster. Yeah, that's good. That's good. What's up, Al? How you doing, buddy? Jersey boy, too. I didn't know Gazeki was a Jersey boy. Check that out. Our buddy Rick checking in. Season long, my two most important season-long leagues. Most points scored, finished 5th, and second most points scored, finished 7th. So frustrating. Man, fantasy football can be extremely frustrating, man. It really can. And it doesn't get any better. It does. The more leagues you're in, the more contests you join, the more frustrating it gets, man. It really does. So we'll do our own lineups again later on, and again this week will be me against Jason, and then John against Dan. Or no, you know what? We'll just go the way the screen is. We'll go the way the screen. Me and Pittsburgh, boy. Me and Coker going head to head. The two elder statesmen of the show. We're gonna go head to head this week. But a lot of topics to discuss, boys. One of them. Listen, I seen somebody on Twitter mention it, and they said they should call Derrick Henry Mr. December. And the headline of this show is going to be Derrick Henry dominates December. Listen, I don't know why I didn't expect it, because he does it every year. But I didn't realize, I mean, you look at it, how his numbers, how ridiculous they are. The last 4 or 5 games of every season. I don't know what it is, but this guy is the ultimate fantasy weapon. 118 yards per game he's averaging for the year. That's not to mention what he's done the last 3 or 4 weeks. And he could listen. This is another week where now his DraftKings number is insanely high. Insanely high. I looked at that and I was like, whoa, do I want to take a $9,500 run? I mean, I think we'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure that's the highest number for a running back all year. Not in a captain's league. I don't think anybody's been, maybe McCaffrey in the beginning, I'm not sure, but $9,500. John, I'm going to ask you, because I know you're one of those guys you always talk about. You talked about Dalvin Cook not paying off for Dalvin Cook last week. Do you even touch Derrick Henry, even though he's been that good, at $9,500?
I have 2 lineups in, and one of them, yes, I do touch him.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
They're at home going up against Detroit.
Sorry, Jason.
Three of the past 4 games, he's had 26, 27, 28 carries. Like, that's 3 or 4 games. That's not just 26 carries last week. This is 3 of the past 4 games. He's been under 20 carries 3 times all year. It's ridiculous. And then his touchdowns, look, he typically doesn't catch the ball, but I expect him to pound the rock again. I really do. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I mean, you put him in there, you're really scrounging with the rest of your lineup. So that is one thing to consider. You got to hit on some of those lower price guys, but I have him in one. Other than that, I won't have him because he is too high priced.
Yeah, he's really high. Trevor says Derrick Henry like running when it's crunch time, when the temperature is done 40 degrees. Al says, I took him last week, but it's way too much this week. That's insane, and I took him last week because John said so. So tip the hat to John right there. I like that. I did not take Derrick Henry, and I would shoot myself in the you-know-what for not taking him because I would have won my league if I did take him. But, Jason, you touching that number, 9,500?
You know what? I feel like you got to play some of them. Like you said, Detroit is so bad against the run. I mean, they're one of the worst teams against the run, if not the worst team. So it's December. It's against Detroit. I'm 100% taking some Derrick Henry this week. And like John said, the touches are so high. He's really only had a couple bad games lately. I mean, he had one that he had 6 points a couple weeks ago, which was kind of a clunker. But, 23, 41, and 39 in 3 out of 4. That's pretty damn solid. So, yeah, I love him. I have a theory with him, too. I mean, he's so big and strong, and I think he's in such good shape that when everybody else starts to break down as the year goes on, he just stays the same. And he's strong. He's fast. I mean, he never seems to ever get hurt. So, yeah, he's a stud.
No, you're right. I mean, you make a good point because he is, man. He is like, this picture is great. When you look at this, you just look at the jersey doesn't even fit him when he's right. I mean, he is so large is unbelievable, man. He's a stud, man. Listen, we remember Jamal Lewis in Baltimore and in Cleveland. I mean, the guy was a tank. To respect to John with Jerome Bettis. We remember the bus. I mean, come on, man. This guy can run. Dan, are you spending $9,500?
I am in some of my lineups, and I Jason stole a little of my thunder, but he's such a big dude and in tremendous shape. And then you get cold weather time of the year, a team like Detroit that's got nothing to play for. Do you want to tackle that guy?
Duh.
I mean, guys are banged up on the other side of the line of scrimmage, nothing to play for, and this monster's coming at you. There's a little olaying going on with this guy at times.
This is true.
And his team has a lot to play for, so he's going balls to the wall.
Al says the same thing like you just said, Dan. Who has any interest in trying to tackle him? I know Asante Samuel would be standing in front of Derrick Henry. That's for damn sure. Namdi Asamoah, he's not trying to tackle him at all. I know that.
People are. I call it pulling a Kiko, where you hide behind the blockers.
Dude, watching him run and people try to tackle him, it's like old school Tecmo Bowl, where like you touch the guy, the heels of the guy, and you fly back like 5 yards. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is so funny, man. It's so true. That was one of the best. I don't know if that was the best game ever, but that was most definitely one of the best
for me
all time.
Super Tecmo Bowl for me was the best game ever, hands down, no question.
ColecoVision.
Wow, ColecoVision. I never had that.
I'm a little older than you guys, but
I mean, I played it. I never had it. I mean, my first system was Sega Master System, not Dreamcast, not Genesis, Sega Master System. That was my first.
Pong.
I mean, that was a long time ago. And then I was a double dribble guy. I was a basketball guy. That was one of my favorite games, man. Trevor says Madden 2005 for him. Yeah, I mean, listen, when Madden came out, dude, let me tell you something. He says, name something better than a hit stick. That hit stick, I'll tell you what, man, when you clock somebody with that thing, that was some serious. Al says, who had Intellivision? I remember Intellivision. Dan, I know you remember Intellivision.
Stop it. Yes. Yes, I do.
I
look good, but I'm old, you know?
I love it. Let's talk about, we talked about this earlier, one of the names, and I said on this program, there was 2 guys that I felt that were going to be on a lot of fantasy championship rosters. Number 1 was Justin Jefferson, but number 2 was Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk, if you go back and you talk pre-draft for the Philadelphia Eagles, because we are Philly guys, at least 3 of us. So you have 1 Detroit guy, actually 2 of us, 1 Pittsburgh/Philly guy, and 2 Philly guys. But if you go back pre-draft, I wanted the Eagles to take him. Number 1, it wasn't Justin, it was Brandon Aiyuk. This kid from OSU, or ASU, right? Dan, my Oklahoma State, right?
I think it's Arizona State.
Arizona.
ASU,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So from ASU, this kid was electric in everything he did. And he was that kind of receiver that could just do so much with the ball in so many different formations. And he is doing exactly that in San Francisco. Number 1, tip the hat to Kyle Shanahan to be able to do what he's doing with a stiff and Nick Mullins at quarterback, okay? Seriously, at the end of the day, it's Nick Mullins. It's like what the Eagles had in A.J. Feely. And what he's been able to do, a formulated offense, killing everybody at the running back position, I should say. Whoever's got Raheem Mostert, every time you see Jeff Wilson trot out there, it's like, Kyle, what is going on, Kyle? Help me out here, man. Like, what is his infatuation with Jeff Wilson? I just don't understand it, because obviously Raheem is the fast guy on his team, but Brandon Aiyuk, he's been steady. He came back from injury. He's been steady. Jason, you mentioned, you had him on your team last week. He is a guy, in my opinion, he's going to be in every single one of my lineups every single week for the rest of the year. Tell me what you think about Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. 16 targets last week. That's the number that jumped out the most. Yeah, 119 yards is great, but 16 targets. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, he's put up 20, 23, 19, 20, and 24 in the last 5 with at least 7 targets in all those games. I mean, he's the guy. I think Debo might be out for the year now, so he's really going to be the guy even more so now. So, yeah, I love him. Like you said, he was in probably, I think I did like 12 lineups last week, and I think he was in like 9 of them. I'll probably even up that this week because this guy, he's just steady. And, we talk so much about that receiving class and how good it was, rightfully so. This dude is right up there. I mean, he's one of the best. He might be even the best.
I think he only gets overlooked because he missed some games. Yeah, I think it's the only reason. I think if he had the steady quarterback play and he didn't miss those games, I think he would be the top guy out of this class. I really do. Like you said it, he is a steady, and his DraftKings number is kind of reasonable. Even this week, it's 6,300. I mean, he's a guy you can get between 58 and that's a really, really good number. I mean, it's growing every week, but it's not like extraordinary. I mean, and he's giving you a ton of production, just like you said, man. Just like you said, it's a good point. Debo out. There is no George Kittle, right? We already know about that. And this is a guy that can do so much. And like we said, he can run the jet sweep. He could, he could do the flip pass. He can line up a running back if they had to, right? He runs the slant. He goes in and out. He does the fly routes. I can't say enough about him. I love watching him. I think he's an extraordinary talent. And Dan, it just kills me. I just wish he was playing for us.
No, I agree. And what Jason said, I was going to kind of tie that into the past 2 weeks. He's averaged 12 and a half targets. Also, I've mentioned in the past, don't chase the points from previous weeks. But you can tell with certain players that that's not going to end. The trend is not going to end. Derrick Henry's, you can chase his points. You can chase, and I believe you can chase Brandon Aiyuk's points. When Corey Davis went off, I was like, you can't chase his points from last week. But at Brandon Aiyuk, you can. I just feel that it's going to continue. And a little side play off of that is Bourne on his team. With Samuel being out and Aiyuk being the main man, he could be focused on more by the other team. And now you have Bourne as a potential sleeper as a DF play,
No, I like that. I like that. I've had Bourne in the lineup a few weeks before.
Yeah, he's trending up as well.
Yes, he is, and he's another guy who's steady targeted every week. I mean, I think he doesn't put up crazy numbers, but for a guy that's a really low value in that $4,000 range to get you steady 8-9 points a week, that's pretty good. Especially going to pay $9,500 for Derrick Henry. You need guys like that, right? You definitely need guys like that. So that's a good point about chasing points, though, because Corey, you bring up a good point. Corey Davis, I mean, he's so flip flops more than the Eagles fans, right? With Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. So I have to say I have to get that in every now and then. But it's the truth. But yeah, so you already know, at least with Brandon, he's steady. John, where let me ask you this, John, because you're a numbers guy. Without even looking, if you remember, where do you feel you had him ranked before the season, in preseason ranks, out of the rookies? You know what I mean?
Just the rookie receivers?
Just out of the rookies. I mean, do you remember off the top of your head?
I didn't have any rookies rated high, and I never do, and I never will, in terms of going into a fantasy football season with a rookie receiver. If you had Ruggs rated high, you blew your draft pick. You know what I mean? Like, think about all the guys. If you had Rager high, you blew your draft pick. I mean, CD Lamb was good when Dak was, under center. Judy had flashes. Outside of Justin Jefferson's the only one, and if anything, he probably would have been lower than all those higher ranked receivers, going into the year. I can't tell you in about 2 seconds where I had him ranked preseason.
Well, I'm just wondering where he was, because there wasn't a ton of talk about him in the preseason. Again, it's really hard to differentiate from the NFL product to the fantasy product, because as an NFL receiver, I thought he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be productive like this for fantasy, just because I didn't think he was going to get the volume I just thought that's a running team out there in San Francisco, and he's a number 2, number 3 guy actually, because who knew George Kittle was going to go down, right? So you have Kittle, you have Debo, right, and then you have the 3-headed monster for the running attack. So, but he's played extremely well, man, very productive.
I'm just looking. I was curious now. CD Lamb I had at 38, Jerry Jeudy at 40, Henry Ruggs at 45. And Aiyuk was down at 69.
Exactly. See, and that's exactly because nobody predicted it. And Trevor says, should I start Aiyuk over McLaren? I would.
You should start both.
What's that?
I said I would start both.
Well,
who was the other guy?
Start both, but I would start Brandon Aiyuk over Scary Terry. I with the quarterback situation out there, and listen, Scary Terry's been steady, but Aiyuk has been more explosive. I think he's the number 1, like Dan said, he's the number 1 receiver right now. He's the number 1 red zone threat, and Kyle Shanahan's going to do it. Listen, Kyle Shanahan, I'm not afraid to say this, he's an offensive genius. He really is. What he can do, you cannot underestimate with an offensive game plan. So, Trevor says, Tony, I'm sending you my roster. Give me a second. So we'll get to see who he's got so we can actually help him out the right way. But, Brandon Aiyuk, definitely a guy that will be on my roster going forward for the end of the year. Speaking of that same team, we mentioned it earlier with the running back carousel. I mean, let me ask you guys, because I've had my son being 16, they're in fantasy, and he's like, Dad, I have Raheem Mostert. What should I do? And I'm like, listen, I don't feel comfortable with any running back on the San Francisco 49ers unless somebody gets injured, and between Mostert and Wilson, because no matter what, those 2 guys, you can't win. You just can't win. But they really, I'll be honest with you, I think they really love Jeff Wilson, and I think they like him more than Mostert because he's definitely getting more opportunities. Jason, I mean, what do you think of this situation out there?
No, you're completely right. And Wilson gets everything with inside the 10. So
yes,
as a fantasy owner, I don't want Mostert. I like him a lot. I think he's really talented, and I think he's probably the best back on the team. But if Wilson's getting everything inside the 10, then you're taking away so much possibility for points. And I don't think you can play either one of them, because I don't think either one of them is going to be steady enough. I mean, Mostert's usage in the past 3 weeks has only been 11 carries, 5 carries, and 9 carries. So he's not doing enough with a high of 65 points. So he's not really doing enough, and Wilson's vulturing him every single time when they get close down to the end zone. So I don't like either one of them.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's just been bad. The usage, just like you said, the usage has been bad, man. It's such a shame because, we seen what Mostert could do, right? I mean, he was electric last year. I mean, he won people championships with 1 or 2 of his performances. So it's just a shame because you just don't know what to do. Dan, what do you think of it?
No, you stay away from those running backs. And the funny thing is, a couple weeks ago, we would have said the same thing about Indianapolis and the Rams. But all of a sudden, the 3-headed monster has become a 1-headed monster for both teams. It's now Akers.
Not me. I was on Akers 4 weeks
ago. No,
man.
you were on Akers. No, right, but I'm saying, but still.
No, I know.
If you were owners of those guys, and now Taylor, so they're starting to now, at least for the fantasy playoffs, if you're still alive and you have those players, and if you want to feel confident with the DFS pick, at least you now know that the Colts and the Rams situation is stabilized. I think not the case in San Francisco.
You have tough decisions if you're one of those owners. If you're a Mostert guy or you're a Wilson guy, I mean, you're probably more of a Mostert guy, right? At this time, like my son just picked up Jeff Wilson. Was like, should I start him? I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I wouldn't start either of them. Like, is there anybody else? So I told him to pick up Gus Edwards. He picks up Gus Edwards. And I'm like, I'd rather start Gus Edwards. At least I know he's getting 12, 13 carries. I don't know what these other two guys are going to get, It's just the world of fantasy. John, you feel, I'm going to guess you feel the same way, right?
Yeah, it's the same way you felt going into the year. Jeff Wilson was a number 4 running back with Mostert, Coleman, McKinnon. You don't know week to week what it's going to be. It's the Belichick story at running back, over the past handful of years. You don't know which one's going to come out. If you want to roll the dice, more than likely one of their running backs is going to have a good game. Good luck guessing it week to week. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I kind of agree with both of you that Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers have stepped ahead of the pack. But at the same time, I will just caution that we've thought that about many players throughout this whole year, about them having 2 good games and coming out ahead of the pack. And it didn't necessarily work out that way. I'm on the same board with you guys, but I am not 100% all in that I'm counting on 20-plus carries for the next 3 weeks.
Listen, I'm still 100% invested in Cam Akers. You don't get that kind of production just go away from him. If he would have made a bad play or missed a block or fumbled a ball or he's been too productive. There's no way. McVay's a very smart guy. He's wanted him all along. So that John I disagree with, but I understand you always have to have caution. But Al says you guys made me change my mind, change my lineup, and took Henry and the kid from San Fran Aiyuk. I love it. Now, I have to give, man. Trevor sent us his lineup. But first of all, let's get Carlos checking in from YouTube. Cam Akers or Chris Carson, he wants to know. Hey, Carlos, thanks for checking in. We'll talk about this right now. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button if you would, buddy. Cam Akers or Chris Carson? Interesting play. Jason, what's your first thoughts about this?
My gut instinct is Cam Akers on this one.
Yes.
Like you said, he's been a stud for the past few weeks, and I think Seattle's going up again. I think they're at Washington, right? So I don't really love that too much.
Me neither.
Cam Akers for me, 100%.
And you got Akers going up against the Jets.
True. Good point. Yeah, even better. So, yeah, I'm going Cam Akers all day. I'm going to play Cam Akers. He's going to be in a lot of my lineups, too. I feel like he's underpriced, too, this week.
Yeah, what is his number this week? I didn't even
66.
look. Yeah, see, that's a great value, man. That is a great value, in my opinion. That is 6,600 against the New York Jets. I mean, and the funny thing is, Carlos, if you look at DraftKings, actually Carson is ranked higher than Akers, and he's $200 more against a better defense. So that's where you have to read between the lines. And they're playing at Washington, and Seattle's offense has been stuttering a lot lately. So, and Washington's defense has been off the charts. So, again, I know Carson, he's averaging more points. I get it. And when he's in there, he is a workhorse. I understand. I don't like the matchup. I'm with Jason. I go Cam Akers. Dan, what's your opinion?
No, I'm definitely Cam Akers. And it's funny, last week I had Carson in a few of my lineups. And I would have been wrong last week if I chose Carson over Akers, which I would have last week. But this week for sure it's Akers.
John, you feel the same way?
Decision comes down to Carlos Hyde.
Ooh.
Carlos Hyde is way too involved. If Hyde was not in the picture, I would probably still take Carson with that tough matchup. They're basically splitting carries, so I'm going Akers.
That's a good point, John, because if you look at it, last week, even Carson went up against the Jets last week, only got 12 carries in a 40-3 win. The week before against the Giants, he got 13 carries because, again, like John's saying, Carlos Hyde being involved, right?
And Hyde's had 14, 15 carries in 3 of the past 4 weeks. Granted, the other one was 2. But point is, 3 of the past 4 weeks, he's vulturing 14 carries. There's only so many to go around,
No, you're right. And you're right. And no matter what, Russell Wilson wants to air the ball out. So, like you said, there's only enough carries to go around. So, yeah, Carlos, listen, man, I think we're all set here that we're all over the Cam Akers wagon. Now, Carlos checks back in. He says, nervous about this Miami game. Do you think I stick with Jason Sanders or start Carlson? Now we're going kickers. We're going kickers. I like it, though. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. And listen, you got to go by matchup, right? This is an important week. These people are in the playoffs, and they're thinking about what's going to give me the best advantage to win here. And again, listen, I'm not a huge kicker guy. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really look at kickers. Jason, going up against New England. New England's reeling right now. They really are. But one thing I will say, just look at it from this perspective, that Bill Belichick, is always a master at stopping the opposing team's best player. That best player is Tua. So if he can get to Tua and he can rattle, and that defense may get to Tua a lot, and that offense may flounder. So that's one thing I think that you need to look at. What you're saying, nervous about this Miami game. It makes sense, man. It makes sense.
That's what I was going to say too about that New England game is that Belichick against a rookie quarterback. Every single time you take Belichick, look what he did to Herbert a couple weeks ago when they had that miserable game when they won 45-0 or something. And so, yeah, I'd stay far, far away from the Dolphins this week.
That's a great point, man. That's a great point. And if you're talking about Daniel Carlson, I mean, he's going up against the Chargers, who that team is reeling right now. They're not a good football team. And Vegas is showing Derek Carr's playing his ass off right now. So they got that team rolling. So I know it's only kickers, right? But I think I would definitely start Carlson. I would not stick with Jason Sanders. Look at John. John, what do you think, John? Talk to us, John.
Sanders. I'm going Sanders. Nobody knows. I mean, you're nitpicking. It's a difference between, you're talking field position. You're talking, going for it on fourth down instead of kicking a field goal. It's all about how many field goal opportunities they have. Look, matchups are all well and good, but Sanders is getting at least 2 field goals every game. They got the winning record. I'm going Sanders. I'm not turning away from a guy he's been kicking lights out this year.
It's a good point. I mean, Dan, you have a rebuttal here?
No, I don't have a rebuttal per se. Is the game in New England or Miami?
The game is in Miami.
All right. So then Sanders, because I'm a proponent of weather with kickers this time of year. Okay. So if you have I'm drawing a blank. Baltimore. Help me out here.
Tucker.
Baltimore's Tucker. Jason, if you have Tucker kicking in cold weather, a potential snowy game in Buffalo, and you have Carlson in Vegas, I would say go Carlson. Weather scares the hell out of me with kickers.
No, that's a good point. It's a good point.
Dome and nice weather games. That's what you want to look for kickers this time of year.
It's definitely a crapshoot. It is, but I will say this to John's point. Since week 9, he has at least 2 attempts every single game, and he has 3 games where he has 4 or more. So he definitely has the potential to do more with less. I'm with Jason, man. I'd be nervous too. I don't like the Belichick factor. I just don't. I could see that team getting blanked. I could see them maybe getting a defensive touchdown, depending on if it's I was going to call him Jake Stedman from Rookie of the Year, but Jared Stidham, right? Jake Stedman, right? Jake Stedman, Rookie of the Year. But yeah, at the end of the day, listen, that's who I would go with. I mean, you just never know. I just don't see them doing a lot on the offensive side of the ball. So Carlos, I hope that helps you out, and let us know. Hit the subscribe button. Let us know how you made out. Now I have to get to Trevor here because he sent me his roster and he wants us to help him. Now, I have to laugh, okay? Because the first thing I do is pull up, and Trevor's probably laughing already. His team name is Ladies Want the Long Cocks, okay? Which is wonderful. Great name, Trevor. I love it. Very creative. So let's go down this lineup real fast. Trevor is a part of the family here. Tremendous follower. Tremendous person. I love it. Great show. Upper Bowl podcast. Just on it this week. I really appreciate it. He has Josh Allen at quarterback right now. Aaron Jones and James Robinson, followed up by McLaren, Stephon Diggs, Tanyan at tight end, Eckler at his flex, Rams defense, and Carlos Santos as his kicker. Wow. Damn, Trev.
All right, so go with Aiyuk.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the only decision then, yeah.
I agree. Against Dallas, I definitely put Aiyuk in there for McLaren. I do. I don't think it's a no-brainer. I mean, maybe I hate, and I know it's against the 30th ranked defense and all, but I hate the Thursday night games. I know, and
you know what, Tone? Eckler's got a question mark again. He's got a quad injury.
That's
So
what I'm talking about. Yep.
pay attention to that. Put McLaren Ayuk in your flex, and then what do you got left at running back? So
Yeah,
you might
let's
have to
see.
do some
He has
adjusting there.
Naheem Hines and Ronald Jones. And Ronald Jones, who everybody thought was going to be the guy, now he's out.
Yeah.
And not only does he have a bad finger, but now he's got COVID. So, listen, if you're a Tampa Bay fan, I know Bruce Arians says we can do any damn thing we want, but I don't know about that, Bruce. It doesn't really look like it. You know what I mean? That was a pretty ballsy comment. So I still 100% agree with everybody. Ayuk's got to be in there. No doubt in my mind. Got to be in there. Let's turn this around a little bit. I want to ask about this to John. Because I know John's on the inside here, and there's a lot of stuff going on with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, with the so-called benching of Diontae Johnson, for dropping balls. John, can you give it? Is this something that we're really going to? I mean, this is the number one receiver in Pittsburgh that now all of a sudden gets benched, and he gets kind of dropped down a notch a little bit. What's going on out there?
I mean, the ball's coming out so quick. They're trying to make a move because they're trying to make a play before they're catching the ball. All right, it's rookie mistakes, number one. He did it the first week of the season too. Remember, he muffed a punt on in the first game of the year, and then he had another ball or two, or fumbled or dry. He had like the yips. You know what I mean? He wasn't concentrating.
Yips,
and
I love the yips.
I can see that from him. He has a lot of good games, but he has those stinkers where I don't know if it's a lack of concentration or what it is. Yes, he was benched. He dropped 2 more balls after Tomlin called all the receivers out, including tight ends. Then he comes out first game after, and he drops 2 balls. All right, so that was kind of the end of it. It was, you got to sit down and think about it. It wasn't a punishment. It's like, we just can't have this. We can't have this. We need to win a game. So, and that's when, you look at, I really expected a big game out of Juju because that is your sure-handed guy. If you're worried about drops, throw it to Juju. And Ebron was doing his same thing. That was a knock on him all of his career, was the drops. Look, it's not like Tomlin's going to bench him because he's a rookie. He was their high draft pick. They think, they want to groom him into a starting receiver for the Steelers, which they are. So, he's still their guy, but he's going to have to do some work, for consistency purposes. Will he get benched again? Quite possibly. It's going to take 2 drops in a game. So he may be fine next week. He could come out and catch 9 balls next week, and I don't think anybody would bat an eye. But
no, you're right. You're right. But didn't this happen to Plaxico? I'm sorry. Did this happen to Plaxico before?
Yeah, he wasn't good at catching the ball. That was a prior regime, but yeah, same type of thing.
Right. So it's not like we haven't seen this before, right? It's definitely something we've seen in the past. So, but again, it's something you have to take an eye on because, we're talking about, in my opinion, one of the most dominant fantasy receivers up to this point. When he was in and he was healthy, he was dominant, man, like multiple touchdown dominant. We talked about this. Juju, even though he's sure-handed, wasn't getting the yards. He 7 catches, 40 yards. Who's that helping? But Diontae was the guy with the double-digit touchdowns week in and week out. So this is a big deal for fantasy owners going forward. I guess you bump. Do you bump Clay, Jason? Do you bump Claypool up in this situation now? Do you bump Juju up and you kind of take him down? What do we do here?
You know what? I obviously he had the 2 drops the other day, which was bad. He got benched, but he only got benched for the second quarter. He still played 73% of the offensive snaps for his team, which is about what he's played the entire year. I think it's a lot to do about nothing. Obviously, the drops are a problem. I'm not going to say they're not a problem. He's leading the league in drops, so that is an issue. But on the flip side of that, in games that he stays healthy and plays the entire game, he's averaging almost 12 targets a game. Like, I want him in my lineup. Drops, of course, they suck and everything like that. But for fantasy purposes, I want him in the lineup all the time. And the dude's a stud. And Tomlin was trying to make a point with him the other day, and I fully support that too. I'd be pissed off if my guy was dropping balls all the time. But I feel like the benching was like one of those like token benchings, and I feel like it was a lot to do about nothing.
Could have been. Could have been. I mean, every now and then, who knows? Could it actually stem from something else as well? I mean, we've seen that before. Maybe something else happened that we're not privy to, and this was a way for Tomlin to basically cover that up, and try to make a point, right, John?
And like,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, kind of what going along the same lines is that they throw so many short passes that I agree with John's point of they're trying to make moves before they even get the ball because Pittsburgh can't run the ball at all right now. So I feel like they're throwing these short screens to kind of, supplement the run game at this point. So I feel like John's point is completely right about that too. Sorry to cut you off.
No, and I'll look. It comes down to fantasy football is based on NFL games, and this Steelers offense, we don't know what it's actually going to be. We know what it's been. But it's going to come down to the game plan. Are they obviously these short passes that were working earlier are now getting anticipated? So they're going to have to change their game. Does that mean that all of a sudden Chase Claypool and James Washington are getting more shots down the field to keep defenses honest, just like stacking a box with 8? If all you have to do is worry about covering receivers for 3 yards, I mean, that's a pretty simplistic thing to do. So could the game plan change slightly with taking deeper shots? And if Ben has starts getting a comfort or going after Juju more because he's like, look, I know the guy's open, but look, Juju's been catching every ball. I just got to get it to him. So I completely agree with you, Jason, that, I mean, double-digit targets and the volume that he's been getting. But, it's just one of them things. There's a slight possibility. Look, that offense needs to change. So the question is, when that offense changes, I do believe Diontae Johnson will still be the guy, but there are possibilities that, they morph it slightly. I wouldn't mind seeing 2 tight end sets.
Ooh, look at you. You're going 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron. I mean, come on. You and Philly know about the 2 tight ends.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. 100%. I mean, listen, you would think that they would have more 2 tight end sets, especially for a team like Jason said, who's struggling to run the ball. It's really odd that, and that's the funny thing, when we're not over top of the team and we're not in that town and we don't follow them by heart. I mean, I know, John, you're a team, so it's a little different for you, but for us, we have to go by just kind of like the outside looking in when people come and start talking about the Philly situation, right? It's really hard for us to digest it and analyze, especially during COVID.
Yep. Well, now you know how I feel about the Philly or the Eagles and the Phillies all the time. It's not as easy to, I got to put work in, the Steelers are easy for me.
I love it, man. I love it. But listen, let's get to, we're 48 minutes into this. I want to keep this under 90 minutes. So, and we have to get to some basketball talk. So before we go to some basketball talk, let's do what we always do. Let's talk about some values that we find right now this week for DraftKings. We'll tell everybody what our lineup is that we're playing, and we'll do a little fantasy roulette. And then we're going to move on to some basketball for the final 20 minutes. But real fast, our good old friend Rick checking in. He says he needs Survivor help. To slim the herd, I have to pick the Dolphins-Patriots game. Then for my pick, I think taking the Titans over Lions is safer than Ravens over Jags. A safer? I mean, I think either one of those are safe picks. I do. I think the Lions have checked it. They've checked out. They've packed it in. The Jags, they stink. They've packed it in. I think either way you're safe. I don't know. Dan, what do you think?
Well, so he's picking 2 games. He has to go with the Dolphins-Patriots game and then one from the other game?
Yes.
Yeah. I think you're safe with either the Titans or Ravens.
No doubt. No, not one or the other either. I mean,
no.
Because I can't even see the Jags doing anything against Baltimore at all. I just they're putrid right now. They are, and the Lions.
And Stafford might be legitimately hurt for a change, right, Jason?
Yeah.
So Stafford doesn't play. Yeah, so he might not even play. So Titans.
Who's playing, Jason? If he don't play, who's the backup?
Chase Daniel is the backup. I had to think for a second because I don't know.
Daniel. Oh, yo, that dude. Listen, before you, I'll tell you right now. There's some guys in the NFL that the FBI needs to lock their ass up for stealing money. And Chase Daniel. I'll tell you what, he should be locked up for grand larceny. He's been stealing money for years. How is he still in the league? I don't get it.
He makes $4 million a year too. $4 million.
We paid him $8 million.
Yeah,
and he sucked.
Sign me up for that.
Oh my God! I'll tell you what. If I want to be Chase Daniel when I come back and resurrect from the dead, I'll tell you that guy stinks, and he's getting paid. He's a gold mine, man. It's unbelievable. Go ahead, Jace. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, like Dan said, Stafford's hurt. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the hit that he took. He took a pretty bad hit, and he was holding that side. Yeah, he was holding his side, and then he started throwing a little bit like he was okay, and then he reached for a clipboard or something, and he looked like he got shot in the side. So, yeah, if he plays, he's injured. To me, though, I still feel like the Lions have a better chance to beat the Titans than Jacksonville does against the Ravens. I think the Ravens – anybody against Jacksonville at this point, I don't care if Minshew's back or not. Jacksonville's awful.
Yep.
So
yep. I agree.
Jacksonville just wants the Jets to win a game.
Right.
Trevor says, who stole more money, Charlie Whitehurst, Chase Daniel, or Chad Henne? It's Chase Daniel. I'm telling you, it's Chase Daniel.
Henne got some playing time.
Henne, he did. And Daniel's been getting multi-million-dollar deals for the last 7 years, and he's done nothing with the opportunity. No. Zero. It's like I don't know. Maybe Sam Bradford still to me is the all-time stealer of money. He's the all-time crook in the NFL is Sam Bradford. $20 million a year everywhere he went, and he sucked. Played like 3 games, and that was it. And he was gone. And then he went to another team. Oh, we're going to franchise him again. It's crazy, man.
He essentially got paid $20 million to rehab an ACL.
Yeah. That's a great deal, man. That is a great deal. That's a great deal. Rick says I need to pick between. Oh, I need to pick between Pats and Dolphins.
He needs to pick that game that one guaranteed. In addition, he can pick what those are the other two.
That's a tough one. Man.
I didn't chime in yet. I'll go.
John.
No, I'll go. I'm going to go Dolphins on this one. They're the better team. I don't care about Belichick. They're playing at home. I'm going Dolphins. And I see both points of. I mean, I think Detroit just in general has a better chance against Tennessee. However, that Jacksonville team, they're so pesty. They're like, they just seem like they're always like nipping at your heels. Like they had the Packers against the ropes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I think Baltimore, I don't think they're going to lose that game. So I'll go Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree 100%. So, Rick, I'm glad to see you're still in it, Rick. I love it. That's a good feat, man. You're week 15, still at Survivor League. That's pretty good, man. That's really good. It's nice to. I have to have you putting in my bets every week. I'll tell you that. But let's get to our DraftKings teams. We're 53 minutes in. Let's talk about some values. And we like to do this every week because there is always tremendous value within the DraftKings lineup. You just look at it, and again, we talked about it before, if you're going to spend $9,500 on Derrick Henry, you need to find these gems, and they're there. Okay, they're really there. I'm going to start. We're going to go right to the quarterback position. And again, we'll go with, like we always do, we're going to give you who we think is our lock to produce at their number and pick 1 or 2 guys that we think are value plays. And, I started off at the quarterback position and number 1, I can just tell you right now, my value play at quarterback is Mitch Trubisky. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Mitch Trubisky has been fantastic from a fantasy standpoint over the last few weeks. I understand against Detroit he only had 15, but still, he's giving you 15 points at 5,000. Right? So, 21, 20, or I should say 22, 15, 25. I mean, a guy under 5,500, I don't think you can beat it. He goes up against Minnesota. Defense is pretty bad. They're really not that good. They don't stop anybody. So, I like what he's doing. He always has Allen Robinson out there. So, for me, for my money, 5,500 for Mitch is a tremendous value. And a lock for me is Lamar Jackson. Going up, we just talked about it, going up against Jacksonville. He's 7,500. I think you're not chasing any points with him. You know what you're going to get. He's going to run. He's going to pass. For me, that's where I'm at. Jason, what are you looking at the quarterback position?
Can't believe I'm about to say this. Taysom Hill is my value and my lock of the week.
Wow.
It sounds
Against
insane.
KC?
It sounds insane, but I play whoever Kansas City's playing against, I'll play a stack with Kansas City and then the other team's quarterback. I always do that. So Taysom Hill, I don't think Kansas City's defense is good. I think his value at 6,000 is really high this week, and I think that there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. So I was going into it thinking either Breeze or Hill, whoever played. It sounds like it's going to be Hill. So yeah, I love Taysom Hill this week, which is the first time I've ever said that.
I like it though. That's ballsy. I like it. Definitely. Al, yes, I did just say Mitch, as crazy as it sounds. But, again, if you look at his numbers based on that value, I'm telling you, man, he could do some big things this week against Minnesota. So, Dan, where you at, buddy? Value locks? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, the locks are all the elite quarterbacks, in particular Rodgers. I mean, all the studs have great matchups, but Rodgers is on fire, and he's playing the Panthers.
Yeah. Oh.
So
yeah.
He's the guy you got to finagle a lineup around. Him and Adams, and then work your magic around those two. My value picks, I have Tannehill at 6,700, Goff at 6,300. I can't believe Baker Mayfield after the 2 weeks he's had is at 5,600.
That's crazy.
Forgot about Baker.
And Alex Smith, if he plays, is at 5,000.
Wow. I don't know if I can trust Alex Smith, man.
Right, but at 5,000, and you stack a lineup,
True.
around them.
True. No, you're right, but I can't believe the Baker.
He doesn't
number.
make a lot.
I forgot about Baker.
Baker is in one of my favorite lineups that I have. So yeah, he's a steal at 5,600.
Yeah, there's no love for Baker, and Al knows. Al knows Baker's my boy. We talk about it all the time.
And he's playing against the Giants.
Well, the Giants have been stingy on defense.
They gave up. No, they've been up like 270 to quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, they up the last.
Maybe not of late though. Maybe not of late.
Yeah, up to last week. I don't know what they gave up last week, but up to last week they were only giving up 16.5 points per game as a defense. So they, but again, that for 5,600. I mean, Baker's been consistently between 5 and 56. I mean, he is a tremendous value for DFS. He really is. Correct. John, who you got, buddy?
I just wanted to say with Baker, it is it is somewhat of a value, but going up against the Giants, Cleveland is going to run the ball. All right. Baker this week is going to revert back to what he did somewhat more closer to the past 4 weeks. The 4 weeks prior to the past two games, he's been outstanding. Before that, look, he just needs to manage a game, and they're going to run the ball.
I'll take 220 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's possible.
For 5,600,
right? And that's not bad. But if it's 167 and 1 touchdown, that's not,
And my back better go off.
Yeah. And you guys all poo-pooed me last week on my Jalen Hurts, Jalen Rager when I said to pair them up.
I love it.
Dude, that was a total of 9,500 salary, and they put up 31.8. Wow. I'm just saying, combined, that's over 3 extra value.
Yo, man, listen, this is what you have to do. This is what I got to listen. I'm going to say this live, John, because I'm serious. You have tremendous picks. I can't remember all of them. When you get something like that, man, throw that shit out there. Let the people know, man. Like, yo, this was my pick, because I can't remember, and I would love to, because I want to give you your props. I forget, man.
To quote myself, it's very intriguing, but I don't have the cojones to pull the trigger.
Right. You threw it out there towards the end, right, John?
Yeah. You have to, John. You have to.
That's my new favorite line, to quote myself.
To quote myself. I like that. To quote myself.
And then he'll say he was misquoted.
Right.
Yeah. But John, that was a tremendous pick. Seriously. Yeah, I mean, they're the kind of things that we want everybody listening to understand. I mean, listen, we will never lay claim to perfection. Anybody says they're perfect, they're on crack. Straight up. Seriously, at the end of the day, they're not perfect.
It's 65%, and you're in very good shape.
I was just going to say, if you could show that 60 to 70% line, you're good to go. That means you're going to be in plus money every single week, and that's all that matters. If you put in 5 lineups and you're coming out gold on 3 and you lose 2, I'll take that any day of the week, and anybody will. And then those weeks you go 4-1 and 5-0, yo, strut your stuff, man. Seriously, strut.
You know
your
what? Too,
stuff.
it's the same thing with DraftKings too. If you have 1 or 2 good weeks a month, that's good, right? I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say. I mean, like I would say I go about 50%. I'll have a couple nice weeks in a row, and then I'll go 2-3 weeks where I absolutely suck at it. So don't lose faith. Just do the same thing. I would say do the same thing at DraftKings. Do the same process with your bets and stick to that process. Tweak the process. That's the only thing I would tweak.
The process. Tweet the I like that. You're trying to that hashtag tweet the process. Al says 100% he did say it. John should post his lineup every week. John's picks. I'm telling you, man. You need to tell Al. Please tell my boy.
I didn't even get first place this week.
So what? Don't matter, man. Listen, here's the thing. There's 4 of us here, and if we can each give everybody 1 or 2 good plays, that's a great lineup. And if we can each hit 50% of our picks, that's a great lineup for them, man. That's what we're here to do. You did throw a couple votes out. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? John's throwing some votes out. Like, where did these come from? I'm like, it caught me by surprise, man. I love it.
For those perusing Twitter, looking at like the latest.
Well, you got to throw your picks out there, man. They're too good. Let's get the running back.
So my quarterback picks, which we did,
that's right.
Around.
You're all over Jalen Hurts wagon. I forgot.
Baker Mayfield's good value at 5,600. Hurts at 5,900.
No, you're not allowed to pick Baker.
I'm not picking Baker.
No. I don't want to hear you talk about Baker. That's my boy, and you've been killing me about Baker. Oh, no. You're not going to pick somebody else.
You know what? I know. You're right. I'm done with Baker. Baker is now in the Marcus Mariota category. Baker is done in my book. Done.
Wow. He's dead to me.
Dead to me.
I love it.
Look, I don't want to do – I don't know. Maybe I should post this one because it's the same thing, but I can't pull the trigger. It's Matt Ryan at 5,400. I know it's Tampa Bay, and he's let me down in season-long leagues, but it was the same thing last week. I didn't want to go with Hurts, so I'm going Matt Ryan for my cheap play.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's a good value.
I'm still Mahomes and Brady for my locks.
Mahomes and Brady for your locks.
Brady at 6,600. So pick the Tampa Bay Atlanta game.
Brady,
good quarterbacks.
Brady's been scaring me lately, but we'll see. I know he's still Tom Brady, but he hasn't been the guy we expect him to be. So John, let's stick right with you and go right to running backs. We'll work this way backwards this time. Running backs, values and locks. Who's your value? Who's your locks this week?
I found it hard to find values. I felt that there were a lot of guys properly priced. Yep. We talked about Cam Akers. I thought his value was right where it should be. Not like it's a good play, but if he does regress a little bit, it's really not that good, but he could blow up. There were just a ton of guys right in that middle tier where, I just thought that they were very well priced. In terms of the guys that I would take, we mentioned Derrick Henry. Look, you put him in to try to build your lineup, and if you're in a pickle, then pull him out and put somebody else in. But I got Derrick Henry paired with Kenyon Drake in one.
Ooh, okay.
Who is, do I have it written here? 5,500. Yeah. And then I have in the other one who I really like to, once again, save the money, Nick Chubb this week, 7,700. You're saving almost $2,000, and they're going up against the Giants. I just mentioned the Baker Mayfield. It could be a lower passing game and a higher rushing game. So I like Nick Chubb at 7,700 and pairing him up with Leonard Fournette and rolling the dice that he gets some type of volume with no Ronald Jones. Apparently the coach coordinator said he looked good in practice. Take that for what it's worth. But, they did give him a couple games where they gave him high volume, and he was kind of the guy. So are they really going to trot McCoy out there again and start him? He was a healthy scratch last week. Fournette was.
Yep.
So I don't know. They said he looked good in practice. If he's not a healthy scratch, I could see him getting 60+% of the carries. So, it's a cheap option at, I don't even know what he's at.
Well, the funny thing is, McCoy actually looked
45.
pretty good.
45.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Didn't he, Dan?
Well, he's fresh.
Yeah.
He's fresh.
And he looked like he was adamant about, yo, get me the rock now.
Right.
I agree.
I agree.
Al says he thought Brady was going to be hot coming off a bye. Gave him nothing like 17. I know. I
Al,
thought the same thing,
Al.
Al.
I'm with you. I played him in most of my lineups, Al.
Yep. That's one of those times, man. Now, I'm with you, John. I looked at this, I scoured it, and we were kind of like the same last week. A lot of guys that were just kind of where they should be, right? So I'm just going to go 1-1. Lock for me. I played him last week. I played him a week before. I'm playing him again. David Montgomery, to me, 7,000 against Minnesota. Another game. He's averaging 16 a game. He's finally getting the production based off the volume that he's always received. He's doing more. Last week it was funny. He breaks up the 80-yard run, and then they kind of went away from him a little bit, right? But the good thing about Montgomery is ever since Tariq Cohen has gone down, Montgomery has got more and more involved in the passing game, which we haven't seen in previous seasons. So I mean, he's getting 4 to 5 targets a game, which is good. In the last 3 weeks, he's averaged 28.1 points per game. So for me, instead of spending that $9,500 number on Derrick Henry, I'll take 28 points for 7,000 from David Montgomery, and he's going against Minnesota, who again we talked about Minnesota, not a very good run defensive team. And value, I found one guy. I found one guy, and it's Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards going up against Jacksonville, 4,400. Mark Ingram is the forgotten man. He might as well not even dress. It's J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And a guy's going to get you 13, 14 carries and get you red zone production for 4,400 against a Jacksonville team. I'll tell you what, I think he could be my value of the week. Dan, what do you think, buddy?
No, I have Gus Edwards was one of my value picks as well, and I'm like you guys too. I was flipping rocks over to find something exciting with running backs this week. I have Cam Akers, Kamara, Dobbins. All those players are solid, but here's a guy that this might come out of left field. I have a sneaky feeling about Ito Smith this week.
Ooh,
he's 4,000. He's out touching Gurley. He's pretty dynamic. The whole Brian Hill experiment that we screwed up on a month ago is finished.
Yeah, we look like idiots.
Hey,
but we weren't the only ones, and a lot of people
we're human,
right? We were all there. We sold it.
But so if you're able to build a nice lineup and you have a flex player that you need to squeeze in for $4,000, consider Ito Smith.
I like that. Ito Smith. Hear that name, people. That's the kind of picks that could win your matchup, man. Ito Smith, $4,000. Who do you got, Jason?
Love the Ito Smith pick, first off.
Yeah, I like that.
Didn't really think of that, but you know what? He's the best back on that team. It's just Gurley blows at this point in his career. So yeah, I think Ito's the best. Ito's the best back on that team for sure. My picks are going to kind of echo what John said a little bit. Kenyon Drake is my value pick. I love him this week. 23 carries last week. Anybody that's going to get 20 carries and be still 5,500, I'm all in for that. And then sounds like a bit of a cop out, but I love Derrick Henry and Montgomery too for the same reasons that you guys already said. Montgomery's been really solid for that price, and if you want to pay up, I mean, obviously Derrick Henry. So
9,500.
Not too much to add.
95. Well, Jason, we'll just stick right to you, man. Let's go with your lineup for this week. You're going to be playing Dan this week, so let's hear what your lineup is this week.
No receivers or anything like that.
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, what am I talking? Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm looking at the clock and I'm going. Oh, we're bad. We even do receivers or tight ends. I'm sorry, Jason.
Correct.
Let's start off with some receivers before we get to your lineup. Values and locks. I'm sorry. Thanks, Dan. You need to be hosting this show.
So my locks of the week, I absolutely love the Saints game, the Saints and the Chiefs game. So I love Tyreek Hill and love Michael Thomas. If I was going to pick one, I would pick Thomas. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. So I really, really like that game. For my value, I love my boy Denzel Mims. He's 3,500 this week, so I love him. And then I'm going to save my other – well, no, I'll say it right now. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 4,100.
MVS.
He put up Yeah, put up 20 points last week. I like him to get targeted a lot, and Rodgers has been on fire. So, yeah, he's in my lineup. And a little spoiler alert, but he's in my lineup, and I really like him as a DFS play.
That's a low number, man. That's a low number. And like you said, Rodgers is on fire, man. Dan, what do you got, buddy?
All right, so I'll just give you my value, guys. And I this was the position where I was having fun with this. I wasn't turning rocks over. I love Russell Gage at 4,700. He's averaging 7.5 targets the past 2 weeks. I love Curtis Samuels, 4,800, 9 targets the past 2 weeks average. I love Rashard Higgins, averaging 9.5 targets the past 2 weeks. I think T.Y.'s back, and he's still being lowballed at 5,500. I hate to say it, it pains me. Nelson Aguilar is getting targeted 10 times a week. He's a $5,000 pick. Bourne is 4,100. And here's my sleeper of all sleepers. And he's actually being played at running back, even though he's listed on DraftKings as a receiver. Lynn Bowman Jr.
Yep.
3,600.
I seen that last week, man. He sparked up on a radar, man. He sparked up on a radar for Miami. I like it, man. I like it. That's some good value right there. Listen, again, listen, we can talk about locks all day. It's all just about that number, but the values are, when you can hit on these 44, to $3,400 guys, man, you have that is what separates you from everybody. You just got to hit on one, man. And if your studs continue to be studs, you're golden. You're going to win. John, who you got, buddy?
I'm digging Mike Evans this week at 6,500. Juju at 6,000. And I like AB at where is he? He's 5,400. Those are just my middle of the road guys who I think are going to have good games, aren't overpriced. Values, Gallup at 3,500. We talked about him last week. And just to touch on, we were talking about running backs and the value at 4,000. I just feel like I never get those $4,000 running backs because I can always find a $3,500 receiver that has, it may not be that slow and steady 7 points, but you could get a Gallup or, one of these guys to actually step up and score you some meaningful points as opposed to just kind of muddling through. But Gallup, Traquan Smith of your pick from last week, Tony.
Yeah, he's done with me. I'm done.
Well,
Traquan
yeah,
Smith.
but I will tell you, he's the cheapest option. Like if you really need to fit in salary at 3,200, he is the lowest floor that I could possibly go. I like Hunter Renfrow at 3,600.
I like Hunter.
And yeah, we already said Rashard Higgins. Possibly James Washington at 3,900.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I mean, listen, I'm kind of with Dan where, I'm just going to name some values. The only guy I really, really like, and we talked about him for me as lock and, at a $6,300 number is Brandon Aiyuk. I love him. I think at that number, he is a lock to get what he's supposed to get, which is averaging 16 points per week. I have no problem thinking he's not going to get 20, and for $6,300, that's a great value. I can't believe I'm going to say this. And John, you said digging deep, right? With Traquan Smith, with his floor being really low, his value being tremendous. I'm going to go even $200 more. And I'm going to go with Alshon Jeffrey at 3,500 now, 3,400. And the reason why is because no matter what anybody says, we can watch Twitter all day long in Philadelphia and hear that we're going to ride if we don't get Travis Fulgham sometime. I've said this before. We have no idea what goes on in practice. This is a COVID year. We are, our hands are tied. We don't see film. We don't see interviews. We see nothing. We have no idea what's going on. All I can tell you is Alshon Jeffrey is a veteran. We've never claimed Alshon Jeffrey to be a speedster. We never claimed Alshon Jeffrey to be this breakaway burner. What we did claim him to be is a back shoulder catch kind of guy and a guy who could catch, he could out muscle for possession. And you seen last week Jalen Hurts targeted Alshon Jeffrey as much as he could when he was open and when he felt comfortable. And I think this week, he's getting healthier. Doug made a point in Philadelphia to say that Alshon is getting healthier and he's looking better. I think they're going to form a nice rapport together between Jalen Hurts and Alshon Jeffrey. So for 3,400, I think that's a steal. Scotty Miller, I like at 3,200. Even with Antonio Brown and Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller still continues to catch touchdowns. So for $3,200 against Atlanta, I think it's a good play. And how about that Chad Hansen? Where's Chad Hansen come from? Practice squad guy, comes up. What does he do last week? He's just the number one receiver for the Houston Texans, and he goes against Indianapolis this week. I know they're a tough defense, but again, at $4,200, he's going to get 7 to 8 to 9 targets in that offense, whether it be productive time or garbage time. They're my 3 values. I can't find anybody else, man, but I like them. I do. I think
hey, Tone,
those are the kind of guys I like. What's up, man?
The Hansen pick, I like that too, but then I did some research and they said they're putting him back on the practice squad.
Get out of here. How are they doing that if they have no receivers?
Well,
That's what I read, and they might pull him back before game time. But
that's got to be a roster move. Like that's got to be something. There's no way he's going back to the practice squad. Well, again, we do the show on Wednesday, so I'm telling you right now that if he's there, he's my guy, 100%.
I think they did the same thing last week, where
he
was down and then they brought him up for the game.
Yeah, there's got to be something.
It's a slap in the face the way he's been playing. So you're right.
Exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. Al says, watch that dog Jeffrey come up big too. Shay, I'm telling you, Al, I have a feeling Alshon Jeffrey's going to have a big week this week in Arizona. And listen, a big week for me, I'm saying 5 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. But again, for $3,400, that wins you your week, man. 100%. I love it. Jason, did you give us all your receivers yet? Yeah, okay. So let's go. I want to make sure I know everybody else said. So let's go tight end. Finishes up with the tight end. I know, again, we don't even need to worry about, if you want to say lock, want to say value. I'm just going to throw one name out there. He's a value guy. You know how I do with tight ends. $3,400. I'm going to stick with the same team. I'm going to go Zach Ertz. I think Zach Ertz for $3,400 is a steal. He just came back last week. He's getting his feet wet a little bit. Obviously came back the week before, but first game with Jalen Hurts, getting feet a little bit wet a little bit, getting healthier. I think Jalen's going to lean on Zach Ertz this week. In this game because there's going to be a lot of times where he's got to get rid of that ball quick on a hot read, and Zach Ertz is, we know he's a short passing guy. So for $3,400, I think it's a steal. Dan, tight ends.
I've been going past 3 weeks with Cole Kmet. He's at 3,000 still. He's averaging 7 targets the past 2 weeks. Eric Ebron just steady, 4,400, 8 targets the past 2 weeks on average. I can't believe Thomas is still valued as low as he is. I think he's officially taken that step as a tight end on their team. I mean, he's averaging 8 targets the past few weeks. Arnold isn't a volume guy, but all he does is catch touchdowns. And my non superstar, but a solid tight end is Hawkinson. I think he's in the 5,000 range. He's at
52.
Let me see 52. Thank you. So he's getting 10 targets a week.
Yeah, he's a stud. He is, man. Hawkinson is a stud. Jason, that's one thing you guys got out there in Detroit is tight ends. I can tell you that.
You know what's funny about Hawkinson, too? They were talking on sports radio today about Hawkinson. If he wasn't picked 8th overall, we'd probably have a lot more appreciation for him. But because they passed on so many good defensive players and drafted him 8th overall, it's kind of put a dark cloud over him.
I can see
2
that.
Iowa guys in the first round that year, him and Font.
Really? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, they both went to Iowa and they're both first-round picks. What are the odds of that happening?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Jason, you have any tight ends?
My main man, Irv Smith Jr. I just love the guy. I'm talking about a guy that just catches touchdowns. That's another guy. And 3,600, I love him this week. He's going to be in a lot of my lineups.
I like that. John likes him some Irv Smith.
He was my sleeper going into the year, going into seasonal drafts. I mean, he was my sleeper. Well, and it was a nice segue, the Iowa tight ends. I think Noah Fant at 3,800 is tremendous value. If you want to get down and dirty, Dalton Schultz at 3,200. Outside of that, to me, there's two options. Our aforementioned Hawkinson and Travis Kelce at 8,000. I mean, you got to treat him as a receiver. If you're putting them in there, that's the bottom line. So if you dare go Mahomes, and then it's basically you either have to take Hill or Kelce. Hill's 8,800, Kelce's 8,000. So I'm just saying, like, you look at the tight end landscape, when you see what guys am I actually comfortable with, to me, it's Kelce and Hawkinson. The rest of that, yeah, you could find a gem. They could have a good matchup. They could play well, but those are the only two guys that I feel like I can count on production this week. It will happen.
Kelce's going to lead the league in receiving. I mean, that's insane. He's 1,250 yards right now. He's going to probably get to 1,500 receiving yards for a tight end. That's insane.
He is absolutely. He is unbelievable. I slept on Travis Kelce, man. I mean, you just look at what he's averaging week in and week out. I mean, he is, we're talking about stone cold locks. I mean, this guy 30. I mean, I mean, 30. I mean, it's ridiculous. You go week 8, 28. Week 9, 29. Week 11, 30. Then he gives you a 16, and then he gives you 2 30s again. I mean, to think he's not the number one option. He's already, like you said, 90 catches, 1,250. Amazing year. I mean, he's trying to make you forget about the name Tony Gonzalez every single week. That's for damn sure. I could tell you that, man. I mean, he's a tremendous player, no doubt. Now here comes the fun part of the show where we do our lineups for the week, and I love this. And John, we're gonna start with you this week. Actually, now let's go to the other side. We'll start. We'll go backwards. We'll go Dan, Jason. Beans are playing each other. We'll see what Dan's got in store for us this week. And again, everybody listening, these are the lineups we play against each other. So if you like the lineup, play it. Maybe you like a couple from Jason, a couple from me, a couple from John, a couple from Dan. I mean, it's why we do this, to give you options, but also for bragging rights amongst the show. So, Dan, let us know what is your Fantasy Firebox lineup this week.
All right. Now, like you said, it's Wednesday, and, I haven't built my 50 lineups yet. So
Dan loves lineups, man. It's so
funny.
So,
but the lineup I'm looking at now, the few that I have configured, I'm going to go with this. Josh Allen at quarterback, Alvin Kamara, Dobbins at running back, Diggs, T.Y. Hilton, Rashard Higgins at wide receiver, Hawkinson at tight end. My flex is Tim Patrick. And then a gum on the bottom of my shoe is the Bengals.
The gum. I love how you say that, man, because it's so true. I mean, we talked about that, and it's so true. Because we do this all the time. I mean, it's just, it's whatever I have left, guess what? That's where I'm going.
That's right.
That's a nice lineup. I like that, man. I do. I really like that lineup. I think, it's so nice when you got to fly around that money as much as you can, and sometimes it's very difficult. It really is. So, nice work. I like that. So, what do you got, Jason?
That's a really good lineup. Definitely second place lineup right there for sure.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I'm going with Taysom Hill.
163.
That's right. Taysom Hill, like I said, my running backs are Jonathan Taylor and Kareem Hunt. My wide receivers are Brandon Aiyuk, Michael Thomas, and Valdez-Scantling. Tight end, Travis Kelce. Flex is Denzel Mims, and then the Broncos defense.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. They like that Denzel Mims, don't you?
I play him every week.
I love the guy. Listen, we all have. The funny thing is, we all have those guys. You know what I mean? Like, we all have those guys, and that's what I like about it. Like, you have those certain guys you'll play, and again, they don't cost you much, right? But if you hit on them, it makes you look really good, doesn't it? That's you know what I mean? That's the good part about it. All right, John. I'm waiting for this. I got to find out exactly where you're going here. Talk to me. What do we got?
Well, we touched on some of it. I'm going with the best quarterback in the league with Mahomes. I mean, all the dude does is put up stats. So I'm going Mahomes. I think Chubb saving that money on Henry. I'm going with Chubb. I'm taking a chance on Fournette. Give me Antonio Brown, Juju, Traquan Smith to save my money, Kelsey at tight end. I'm going Sammy Watkins because he pops in a touchdown, pair him up with Mahomes. And Washington football team defense, I don't care if they're going up against Seattle or not. That defense is a top 5 defense no matter what offense they're playing. That's what I got for you, Tone.
I'll tell you what, that defense is balling out, man. It really is. I mean, 100%. That defense, week in and week out, is balling out. Now, John, you're probably never going to guess some of these guys in my lineup. Okay, because again, I like to get crazy, right? I like to get crazy because I think. Listen, this is fun, man. This is fun for me. I like it. A lot of and a lot of analysis into these picks. We've talked about a lot of these names, but just a different way I like to formulate my lineup. Yeah, what's up?
Take it. I hope you take Ampli.
Wow,
Yeah.
Ampli, wow. But I will say this. I did have the Washington football team as my defense as well because so we're going to be washed right there. My starting quarterback is Mitch Trubisky. It's crazy. I get it, but listen, I have a feeling this week, and the reason why is my 2 running backs I like are Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery. So I wanted to spend $14,000 on running backs, and I think those 2 guys are going to be studs. I like the stack between Trubisky and Montgomery this week. Last week the stack of Trubisky, Montgomery, and Robinson was really good, so I'm going to go 2/3 of that again this week. And I'm also going to get the stack of Jonathan Taylor and T.Y. Hilton as one of my receivers. I have Brandon Aiyuk as another receiver. And I have our practice squad player right now, Chad Hansen, as my 3rd wide receiver, so we could change, but I still think he's going to play. Travis Kelce is my tight end. I treated him as my number 1 player this week. With Jason, I think there's going to be a ton of points in that New Orleans and Kansas City game, no matter what the defense is on the New Orleans side. I think it's going to be fireworks, something like a 38-35 game. So Travis Kelce, I think, is prime for a big-time game. And Alshon Jeffrey, I'm going a 3,400 Alshon Jeffrey as my flex. I think this is an Alshon week for the Eagles against Arizona. So, I'm left with $300. I could have got maybe a different receiver, but I like Alshon at 3,400. I think he's a good value. So, John, good luck. We'll see. But
our tight ends and defense cancel out. So
yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me. I normally don't do that, but, you talked about Kelsey last week, and, I start looking at and I'm like, wow, this guy is because I don't respect the tight end position when I do the DraftKings lineups, I never looked at him that way. And now I'm like, wow, this guy is just steady as they come, man. I mean, I don't think there's anybody steadier.
Well, and there is something to be said. I mean, to get under the salary cap, you have to take so many chances and hit on those things. It's just comfortable. It's I'm just going to take Kelsey. Well, I know it's a high price tag, but if you mentally just think he's a receiver, you're going to get your money's worth and call it a day.
Exactly. Now, usually this time we'll play a little fantasy roulette, but today, because we're pressed for time, we're going to skip that this week. What we'll do is we already have the graphics made up. We will tweet them out on the Twitter account. Give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. Interact with us. We'll give you who we think, all 4 of us, and get everybody else in there too, and make a nice big thread. But we got to transition for the last few minutes of the show. We want to preview some basketball because even though it's the Fantasy Firebox football show, it's called the Fantasy Firebox Sports for a reason, because we are all fantasy sports. We're going to have our man Dan talking some NHL, which I love. I can't wait. He's going to teach me some stuff about the NHL, which I'm excited for. Obviously, we're going right into, we're going to have baseball, which I love. I know Jason's a baseball guy. John is a huge baseball guy when it comes to fantasy. And I know Dan, he tiptoes in there as well. But right now, we're talking about December December 22nd at tip-off for the NBA, and I was so into the NBA bubble last year. I loved it. I got into it. And this year, before we go any further, we are going to have, for anybody listening right now, whether you hear us on podcast or hear us live, we will tweet it out. We're going to have the Heat Ratio Sports Basketball Listener League. It's going to be strictly through DraftKings. If you want to be in the league, all you need to do is give us your email address. We will send you an invite. Yeah, he switched out. Look, he went. I love it. He got. That's awesome. So we are going to transition to DraftKings this year, and we're hoping to get as many people on board and what we will do is you will put a lineup in every Friday. Only the Friday night games is what we score on, and it'll be the top 3 guys cash out. It'll be $5 a week. You'll pay it directly to DraftKings. It's the best part. No exchange of money. DraftKings gives you your payout strictly to your account. So we will tweet it out. Hopefully, we get as many people. Al, Andre, I have an NBA guys. Hopefully, you guys will join in. We already have about 10 to 12 people signed up. And again, we'll get more. So send us your email. We'll get on that. So let's just talk about, before put me in, let's go. I love it. I knew Al was in. I love it. We're going to have some fun with this year. But right away, before we talk about some sleepers, before we talk about some studs, maybe some busts, because I got a couple, but let's just talk about the number 1 overall pick. And it can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Now, obviously, we're going to be talking about a standard points league, not rotisserie. Okay, this is a standard head-to-head points league. So you're looking at that. You're looking at your points, your rebounds, your assists, your steals. I'm not going to get into the turnover thing. I don't look at the plus minus. Just your 4 standard categories. Obviously, blocks for your big man as well. So when we look at that, there's a top 3. And I mentioned about this earlier. I don't necessarily think James Harden is in that top 3. And a lot of people think that top 3. So what I want to know is, number 1, your guy's number 1 overall pick. And number 2, what is your top 3? So when people are doing their mock drafts and people are ranking their players, 1, 2, and 3, who are they from top to bottom? Dan, I'm going to go right to you to start this off. You're the newcomer to the show. 1, 2, 3, NBA fantasy, who you got?
Giannis, Davis, Doncic.
Okay. I love it. I love it. I mean, Giannis, it gives you all different categories, right? He hits the mark on every single one. He even gets you the blocks. Obviously, Anthony Davis, for my money, could be the MVP this year very easily. And my MVP is Luka Doncic. So I can't analyze this without telling you that Luka Doncic is actually my number 1. So, for me, he's my number 1. I'll get to my 3 later. Jason, how you feeling about your top 3?
Love Luka. I completely agree with you. I think he's the MVP this year. Luka's number 1, Giannis 2, and then AD 3. So not much variance. So I think those are definitely the 3 top guys, though.
Yeah, I do. It's a consensus. I'll have a little sleeper in there, but John, what are you talking, man? How you look at your top 3 right now? Who you drafted top 3 in the NBA?
Giannis 1, no doubt, and probably Luka, and then Davis.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a consensus. I'm going to throw a little curveball here just because, I don't think Giannis is the player that we all think he is. Listen, he's a fantastic freak of nature, but that necessarily mean he's all of a sudden going to create his own shot, which he cannot do right now. So, the thing with Giannis is he can be stopped, and he can be blocked, and he can be guarded. And I know he just got a huge money deal. They just got Drew Holiday on that team. So I'm not saying his role is going to change. I just think he's going to have to give up the ball more than expected to Drew Holiday because Drew's going to want to score too. So it's the first time. This isn't Chris Middleton, right? This is Drew Holiday. He wants the ball. So for me, my money, Luka is number 1. Without a doubt, he's my MVP this year. He's my fantasy MVP. I mean, listen, he just played his first preseason game, drops 27. I mean, the dude is just unbelievable. And he needs nobody. He needs nobody. He fills up the stat sheet every week. Again, AD, for me, is my number 2. Anthony Davis, very talented. My number 3 is Steph Curry. People are sleeping on Steph Curry because he didn't play last year. People are forgetting that this is a guy 28 points per game. It's a guy who holds the NBA record for most three-pointers made in a season. 50% from the field, 43% from three-point, 90% plus from the charity line. Who else is scoring for Golden State? There is no Clay. And he didn't have an ACL injury. He didn't have an Achilles injury. He broke a bone in his hand. Okay, so we're not talking about, did he lose a step? Is he going to be, how's the knee going to hold up? How's the ankle? No, man, this is his hand. He is fine. He's the number one scoring option. People are forgetting about it. He's going 7th or 8th an ADP. For me, number 3. This dude is unbelievable. He is going to be on fire this year. His minutes may cut down, maybe like 6 or 7, but he's still going to be, 30. He's going in 33 years old this year. Plenty of prime time left for him. So for me, it's Steph Curry. And again, he's a sleeper for me because a lot of guys are overlooking him because he did only play 5 games last year. So either way, you have to, in the NBA, what I will say about NBA fantasy is more than ever, you have to hit on your top 2 picks because after that, it's very watered down, right? If you don't hit those top 2, you're screwed. You're really hoping for, because you have to remember, not every NBA team goes 9 deep. NBA teams 6, maybe 7. So after you take 2, if you pluck 2 off of every team, there's not much left, right? So your guys, not only do they have to stay healthy, okay, but you have to make sure that they are locked down studs. So that's why we do this, because this is what we think. Now, obviously, I said Steph Curry's a sleeper, and Al seconded. He loves him some Bron, man. I love it. There's a homer, right? Al, I love you, bro, but Brandon Joe, come on, man. Listen, that would be great for us, right? That would be great for us, but Bron's going to fill out the stat sheet too. Only thing you got to watch for Bron is obviously the rest factor, right? You really have to, especially if we're talking season long. That's why I like DFS. But I would say a couple guys, in your opinion, sleepers this year. And the NBA always has a lot of sleepers. And the reason why is because so many guys change teams every single year. And they mean so much more to other teams they go to. Like, for instance, I'll just give you one. Obviously, to me, it's a homer guy. But, you look at Seth Curry. He's going from one team to the next. He's playing a role that Josh Richardson playing. He's a better shooter. He's a better scorer. He has 44.3% career three-point percentage. That's no joke. And he's going to get every opportunity. He's starting for the Philadelphia 76ers, and he's going to be the guy. He's going to be JJ Redick +1, in my opinion. So you could get him late in drafts, not extremely late, but you can get him later, kind of like mid-round, and he's a sleeper to me. That's a starter on a legitimate contender in the East. He's going to put up a lot of minutes, and he's going to get a lot of volume for shots. Jason, sleepers, man. Who you got on your list?
I have so many. I don't even know where to start. One guy. I
love it, man. I love it.
I really do. I'm not even kidding. So one guy that I don't think he's a sleeper per se, but I think he's going way too late in drafts. He's going between 35 and 40 is Zion. I think Zion's going to have a huge year this year. I think they're going to go to him a ton. Love him this year too. As far as actual sleepers go, love Thomas Bryant. Love Thomas Bryant in DFS.
Yes.
I play him almost every single day in DFS, and
he's great for Washington, man. He's a player, man.
He really is. Jaren Jackson Jr.,
yes.
my Spartan brother from Memphis. I love him this year too. I think that's pretty much. And then, there's a lot of injury guys that are coming back, or guys that are in new situations. I think it's going to be interesting to see how a lot of these guys fit, like Schroeder going to the Lakers and some guys like that, to see exactly, what the minutes breakdown is going to be and what the role is in the offense. But yeah, those are my big guys as of right now. Actually, I have one more for my own Pistons. A guy that's going around pick 100, Blake Griffin. This team sucks.
Yeah.
This team sucks, but if Blake can play, he's gonna put up huge numbers. So, yeah.
I like it. You're right. Who else is playing on that? Who else is scoring on that team?
It must be fun for people that have good sports teams in their cities, because I wouldn't know what that feels like. But
yeah, I guess when you hear us cry, it's like, yo, guys, you have no idea. You need to stop. I get it. I get it. John, who's on your sleeper list, man?
I haven't even gotten, I can't do a league without doing my research and my rankings.
I know.
And it's been weighing on me because I know the season is on the 22nd. So I am running out of time. So I'm just going to give you one.
Okay, that's fine.
Look, deep sleeper. I like Colin Sexton with the Cavs.
He's sexy.
All right,
that's a sexy pick. I like him.
I mean, I think it's a guy that's really going to show up and perform this year. Not going to cost you a whole heck of a lot, but I think will absolutely overperform draft value.
No, I like that a lot. I do. I like Colin Sexton. I like him coming out of college, and I like what he's been able to do for Cleveland. Again, another team who's without scorers. I mean, who else is going to fill up the stat sheet for Cleveland, right? It's a really good pick. I like that. Dan, what do you got, buddy?
I'll give you 3 guys that are probably going to be outside the top 50. Would you consider that a sleeper?
Yeah.
So, Gordon Hayward,
who
Brandon Ingram,
already got injured. You know that, right?
He did.
Like, that's the joke going around. Already, first game.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward got injured.
Finger.
All right.
He broke his finger, right?
Yeah.
All right.
He's like the softest player in the NBA.
Rewind the tape.
Okay.
Rewind the tape. My 2 favorite guys after the 50th. I love Brandon Ingram and Kelly Oubre.
Ooh, Kelly Oubre is a nice pick. Yeah, I like Kelly Oubre. I do. That's a good one. That's a really good one. He fills up the stat sheet, man. He does.
You know what? Too, I'm gonna throw a flag on that one. Brandon Ingram's a star. That doesn't count as a sleeper. He's too much of a star.
Oh, you see where he's projected though?
No, where is it?
Oh, no, you're gonna maybe go back.
14.
Go back.
I'm just kidding.
Wait, I have 85 tabs open. Hold on.
Brandon
64th.
Ingram.
64th.
Oh wow.
That's what I was gonna say. Low. He is really low. I mean,
That's
really low. Kelly Oubre, again, he's 67th. Right? But again, Kelly Oubre is a great pick because he's a Golden State guy. Outside of Steph Curry, they need scorers there, man. They need scorers. I mean, they need people to drain the shots, and Kelly Oubre does a lot on it, down low. I mean, so that's a good pick, Dan. I like that. It's a good pick by you. A guy that we didn't mention. What's that?
I'll be here all week.
I love it. Al second says CP3. That's another good one. CP3's he's low ranked. He's a veteran. How much does he have left? We don't know. But he again, if you're a guard in the NBA, you're going to fill the stat sheet up if you're starting for a legitimate team. So, one guy we didn't mention, he's on my list. I don't think gets enough love is Spencer Dinwiddie. Another guy, play for Brooklyn. I mean, listen, currently we're talking about a guy who's being picked between 130th to 138th. Last year had a career year, averaged almost 21 points a game, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 steal. I mean, listen, this guy and 2 triples across 31 to 35 minutes a game. He's 27 years old. He is on a team that, again, with Durant coming back, Kyrie Irving, the team Joe have, that team is going to be fun to watch, right? It's going to be fun to watch, and I think Spencer Dinwiddie can be a really good sleeper on that team.
I think Phoenix is going to be a team that's going to be fun to watch, too. The CB3 call is a good call. That team's, I mean, with him and Booker and Ayton, that team's building something good here. I think that's going to be an interesting team to watch. I
agree with you. I 100% agree with you, no doubt. That's going to be a really and I love how they're West Coast teams because it gives you that 10:30 game. That's why I love Damian. Dame's my favorite player, and it's great to get to watch Portland at the 10:30 game. Right? It is tremendous. It really is. But lot of different NBA talk now. When we talk about sleepers, you also have to talk about busts, guys that are being taken too high, or maybe guys that, I'll give you one, even though I'm a lover, a Jimmy Butler lover. I love Jimmy Butler, but I'm afraid that Jimmy cannot produce what he produced for where he's going compared to last year. I mean, listen, he's 31 years old, and he gives you everything. And he is probably, one of the most in-shape players and, most toned, conditioned guys in the entire NBA. But this is a shortened off season. It's a little different. He didn't have time to rest those bones. He played deep in the playoffs. He was impressive. 27 points per game. Held that team together on his own. But for a guy being drafted in the top 25 or 30, I don't know, man. For me, it's definitely buyer beware. Definitely proceed with caution with a guy like Jimmy Butler. Jason, any guys you're looking at as maybe busts or maybe guys you would avoid in upcoming drafts?
This is going to hurt your feelings probably. Joel Embiid.
That's okay.
I don't know. Something with that team just I know we kind of went back and forth on Twitter talking about James Harden and things like that.
Yes.
And I feel like that James Harden deal is a deal that you make every single time. I'm not as sold on the Philadelphia guys, I would say, as an outsider. I don't think that team is built to win a championship. And I think that Embiid, especially with his health, I think he starts to decline more sooner rather than later, unfortunately.
No, you listen. That's one of our biggest concerns in Philadelphia is the conditioning of Joel Embiid. He's an immature player who doesn't take the game seriously, doesn't take conditioning seriously. We know that. We thought Al Horford was going to be his mentor, so to speak. Got to show him that. And listen. The funny thing is, the whispers of Jimmy Butler leaving this team because he didn't get along with Ben, but. He's best friends with Joel but Jimmy left Minnesota because he didn't think that Cat took the game seriously and Joel doesn't. So it's a really weird dynamic, but you hit the nail on the head. Listen, it's something to be concerned about. He's been injured every single year. He's going to be drafted extremely high. When he's on the court, he's golden, but we just don't know how many games he's going to play and how he's going to hold up. That's why, again, the Heat Racer Sports League is DraftKings, and it's daily DFS driven, not season long.
Yep. So, you don't have to worry about injuries.
Yes, you don't have to worry about that. He gets injured, you just don't pick him. Al checks in with a really good one here. Back on sleeper, he said, what about Mikal Bridges as a sleeper with CP3 getting him open shots? A good one. I wish Mikal Bridges was a Sixer. They should never traded him for that stiff Zaire Smith. Let's not even get into that. Thanks, Colangelo. Appreciate it. But, yeah, Mikal Bridges is a really good player. And definitely a guy going late.
I like Mikal Bridges and Miles Bridges, both as sleepers this year. I think both of them have a lot of upside.
You're right. Yeah, both the Bridges boys. I like that. Double Bs, man. Definitely. Double Bs, that's the only time double Bs are good. Hey, Dan. guys to avoid. Dan, who you got on your list, buddy? Who you avoiding this year?
Well, before we go to avoid, we forgot about a potential sleeper in John Wall.
Yes.
He's ranked in the 90s.
That's a great point. And he looked really good in his first preseason game.
Yeah, I had him written in sloppy in my notes. I overlooked him earlier.
I like that.
A guy I've never liked, and he's ranked too high in my opinion, is Andre Drummond. So I don't like Andre Drummond a little bit.
He's never done it for me either, man. Me
neither.
And he used to play for Detroit, Jason.
Yeah.
I have never been so happy when the trade happened in my entire life. True story, as I was in that one.
We're in agreement then.
I could not stand him. Yeah.
Yeah, I was never an Andre Drummond guy. Never an Andre Drummond guy. John, I know you do your research. Do you have one guy for us that maybe you'll avoid this year?
I mean, Durant and the injury history, depending on where he goes. I mean, he's going. I mean, I've seen him go in the top 10, so which is just too much for an injured guy. And similarly, Zion Williamson. I mean, he's one of the heaviest players in the NBA. I don't know what his durability is going to be like, and depending on where you get him, if you can somehow get him in the third round, all well and good. But name value alone, he's going to be going higher, and I think you're going to have to pay up for the name more than the value you get out of him.
Listen, that's a good point. And it's funny. I know Jason is, he thinks he's a sleeper based on where he's being picked. And, a lot of you guys, whether you know it or not, I don't know because, not everybody followed me earlier on, but I was a big proponent of Ja Morant greater than Zion Williamson. I'm a Ja Morant guy. I thought Ja Morant should have been drafted before Zion, and everybody thought I was nuts. And it's for exactly what John's saying. I just don't think that Zion will hold up in the NBA, and I think Ja Morant is what this NBA is all about. It's all about guard play. I can see that, John. Definitely one guy I would say keep an eye out for before we get out of here is, he's going to miss maybe a month, is Kristaps Porzingis. And look at Porzingis. If he starts falling in your drafts, okay, listen, this is a top 20 guy. Okay, when he's healthy. So if he's falling in drafts, you're sitting there maybe in the 5th, 6th round, and your lineup's kind of set, and everybody's a little afraid of Porzingis, I tell you, hit that trigger, man. I would draft him any day of the week. He's a guy for me. And another guy outside the top 25, keep an eye on. I was really high on this guy last year. Jason, you're going to know who he is. He played in Detroit. This year he goes to Houston. It's Christian Wood. I was a big Christian Wood guy. He really, really came on last year. And he was a steady point producer for DFS, and he was a steady point producer for a standard fantasy league. So, he goes to a different situation. As of now, we still have James Harden. We know James Harden's going to throw the ball up X amount of times, and Christian Wood down low is going to get a lot of rebounds. He's going to get a lot of bump and run coverage down there. So, I really like Christian Wood as one of your big guys because, again, big guys aren't always there. So if you can get a really good big guy, that's something to look at. Al says, I won. Do you guys think that Mitchell can play like he did in the bubble every night and earn that money? I don't know. I was not. When that whole Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons beef came out, I was like, no, I don't like Donovan Mitchell. Like I get perturbed at guys right away by things like body language and the way they conduct themselves certain ways. I'm just like, whatever, I'm out, whether they're good or not. And Donovan Mitchell was one of those guys until I watched him play. And and the bubble showed me a lot. Or different players. Al makes a good point. Was it just because of the bubble? Because a lot of people said, I think they just played that way because it was in the bubble. I don't know. I think they kind of reinvented themselves. And I think in NBA players, more than any, are very egotistical. And I think that those kind of players are going to say, wait a minute, I know what I did in the bubble. I want to be that guy again, whether it's in the bubble or not. So I think Donovan Mitchell 100% earns the money he's getting and plays like that. I don't, Jason, what do you think of Donovan Mitchell? You think so?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you just said completely. I love Mitchell. The Pistons passed on him a few years ago in the draft, and it killed me. He played so well, like you said, in the bubble, and he doesn't have a lot of they have some pieces on that team, but I'm not really set on that team being that good. And he really carried them in the bubble, and I think he's going to try to do that again. Like you said, it's a very egotistical league. It's a hero ball league at this point right now, and I think he is a stud. And he seems like one of those guys that when it matters most, he really turns it up. So I like Mitchell quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's going as high as 15th. Right now his ADP goes anywhere between 15th overall and 43rd. So, his average is around 35 to 36. So, if you're going to take him, top 15, that's the second round pick. And we talked about this earlier. Your top two guys had to produce. Last year, 24 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, the guy was all over the place. So even threw a steal or two every now and then. So, yeah, I'm high on Donovan Mitchell. I think he earns his money. Dan, you feel the same way?
Yeah, he's a stud. I like him a lot. Now, a guy I'm going to throw at you is not a sleeper, but a guy one of my favorite ball players in the league is Devin Booker.
Yeah. Love Devin Booker.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you not? That's the one guy. I mean, the funny thing with him is, I don't want to say he came out of nowhere, but he kind of did, right? I mean, like,
he was a one and done from Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But nobody expected him. Everybody thought he was inconsistent, and that was the biggest part of his game. He would have those really big games. He kind of like, I hate to say this, but kind of like Trae Young. Trae Young last year would have
another guy I love.
Right, I love Trae Young, but again, he wasn't really consistent. He had he was kind of like up and down, and I think that was Devin Booker until last year. Devin Booker just exploded. He really did, and again, I mean, listen, you're getting Chris Paul. Right? You have DeAndre Ayton. I mean, listen, that team in Phoenix, ooh, man, I'll tell you. Jason's right. And another West Coast team. That's exciting. So another West Coast team that we'll be able to watch late here on the East Coast. Again, it's a really, really good team out there to watch. So I'm excited about Devin Booker. I really like him. But guys, listen, I tried to keep this. I apologize. I tried to keep it an hour 30, but again, it's an hour and 53. We almost hit the 2-hour mark. Last question, Allison, who was the shooter that was hurt in the bubble that will take shots from him? Who was the shooter that was hurt in the bubble that would take shots from him? I'm not sure.
From Booker?
I'm guessing he's talking about from Booker. I'm not positive. Who was a shooter that was hurt in the bubble? I'd have to look at that, Al. I'd have to look at that. But we'll look at that. We'll try to get you an answer on Twitter. But anyway, as always, man, this has been a great show. We expanded tonight to basketball, and like I said, starting next week, we're going to have to add more basketball in because we're going to be a tip-off. And again, DraftKings, Heat Ratio Sports DraftKings League, give me listen, all we need is your email address. I'll throw it out on Twitter. DM me with your email. I'll give you the invite. You can join. And again, it will be the Friday night slate. Every Friday night we will play. Top 3 guys will score. I'm going to throw. He says Mitchell. Who was the shooter that was hurt in a bubble that would take shots from Mitchell? Gordon Hayward. He's talking about, right? No, not Gordon Hayward.
No, Hayward was Is it
Ingles?
Ingles? Joe Ingles?
Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles. That's
Slow
right.
Joe.
Yeah. Slow. The guy who looks like he's 70 years old, but he's still getting it done, right? That's amazing. But as always, like I say, Jason, John, Dan, thanks again as always, guy. He says the guy from the Pacers. Now he's really making me think. The guy. Oladipo. Victor Oladipo. That's okay. Now I know what he's talking about.
That kid killed me last year.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I know. He killed a lot of people last year.
I mean, it was like, look, he was injured, but it was like he kept falling. It's like at some point, like, do I just get this guy just to, you know what I mean, and hold on to him? That didn't work out.
That's all right. There's always going to be players like that, for real. But again, anything you need fantasy-wise, hit us up. Follow the YouTube station. Again, the YouTube channel at Heat Ratio Sports. You'll see Jason on there every Friday or Saturday giving you some prop bets. He does well every week. You'll see me on there giving you your 90-second vignettes, DraftKings lineups, fantasy shows, whatever. We're going to get John, start getting him behind the camera. We're going to get Dan giving us some NHL insight as well. And Jason and Dan, we're going to talk about, they might have their own show coming up. Talking about a little golf and a little NHL fantasy as well. So it's going to be a fun time. So give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. As always, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you next week.